Hi, I'm back again with On Music, and this is going to be the third and final uh, episode devoted to my Black Sabbath Studio Albums Countdown. All 19 studio albums under the name Black Sabbath. I'm counting down from 19 down to number 1. So I'm going backwards for the worst to the best, or the least best to the best. Um, so far in these last two videos, I've gotten 9 of them discussed. And it took me a while because I'm also telling a lot of anecdotes and some history and throwing in bits and pieces of this article, Black Sabbath Reincarnations, where I originally posted a countdown of 25, their entire discography. So that's 6 live albums. So I've omitted the live albums. I've also omitted the spin-off band album Heaven and Hell band album Devil You Know. Some people include it. Since it's not under the name Black Sabbath, I'm not. And then some people will be like, well, why did you include that damn Seventh Star, man? That's just a solo album. That's not really a Black Sabbath album. But everybody's got their opinion about what really is a Black Sabbath album or not. So my barometer, my personal barometer, and for the purpose of this extended piece here, is that every studio album released under the name Black Sabbath is a Black Sabbath album. If it doesn't have Black Sabbath on the top, it's not a Black Sabbath album. The other common denominator is every one of those albums, labeled thusly, has Tony Iommi on guitar. So, that's it, you know. Some people don't like it when their favorite bands change direction and they try to say, oh, it's a totally different band. Maybe it should have been retitled, and maybe so, but maybe not. What I found from listening to bands for so long and being in bands is that the crucial element that keeps a band, that identity of that band is the leader, the writer, or writers, creators, whoever has written a lot or most or all of the songs, came up with the concept of the band, usually came up with the name of the band, not always. There's exceptions to these, but I mean, is Yes Yes without John Anderson? I don't know. Is Yes Yes without Chris Squire? Chris Squire contributed to all the music, and John Anderson contributed to all the lyrics on his albums and named the band. So, but now there's 2 different bands and Yes bands, and one has John Anderson and one doesn't, and neither of them have Chris Squire. So this is kind of crazy. King Crimson's always going to be King Crimson because it's Robert Fripp's project where he plays rock music, his take on rock music, various styles and permutations. To me, Black Sabbath is Tony Iommi's life work, essentially. It didn't begin that way per se, but that's kind of what it evolved into, and then it kind of came full circle with the original lineup doing 1 studio album and quite a few tours. But as I commented on that studio album, they did 13. I don't think it was a strong enough work to really. It doesn't change the things that I've set out just now. It doesn't take anything creatively to another level. I mean, it's still Tony mainly writing the music, and of course Geezer writing lyrics and music. There are several Black Sabbath albums that do not have Geezer Butler. The ones with Geezer Butler, I would say, are more Sabbath albums than the ones without him. To be fair, for appearances on album, Jeff Nichols appears more than most other musicians than those 2. Bill Ward is on a lot of albums. Ozzy's on a lot of albums, and Tony Martin is on a lot of albums. Dio is on a fair amount. So, some people are one-hit wonders, or one-album wonders. So instead of going rehashing the lineup kind of stuff again, we're just going to go forward with where we were last time. The top 10 Black Sabbath albums as I reckon them, counting backwards. So number 10 is Dehumanizer, 1992. This album had the same lineup that was on Mob Rules and on the live album Live Evil, which is Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Ronnie James Dio on vocals, Benny Appice on drums, and Jeff Nichols on keyboards. Though Jeff Nichols really barely appears on Dehumanizer. So, Dehumanizer. It was hard for me to choose this over some of the albums below it, like, for instance, Master of Reality or the first album. But to me, that lineup is my personal favorite Black Sabbath lineup. Those four individuals, with maybe Jeff Nichols in Congress or not as the fifth member, is really my favorite configuration of Black Sabbath. And I know people are going to be like, but Bill Ward. I know Bill Ward is a better drummer than Vinny Appice. I like him more myself. But it really clicked when you had Dio and Appice along with Butler and Iommi. That was a certain aggregate. And they enjoyed playing together. And it comes through in the music. Dehumanizer is really heavy. It's produced by a guy named Mac, who did some pretty cool Queen mid-period stuff. I think he produced The Game, maybe, and maybe Queen, Flash Gordon. I think. Pretty sure he produced The Game. But anyway, so he was a good choice. It has kind of a dry sound, but not quite Rick Rubin dry. It's still very full. It is very heavy. They're beating the shit out of these instruments, and Dio's wailing. Dio wrote all the lyrics, of course, and this is really, it's a cool album. It's one that got almost kind of overlooked at the time. I mean, it was a big deal that they reunited. They did a great tour. I'm saying it's a great tour because I've seen a lot of footage from the tour, and the performances are maybe the finest that lineup ever performed before or since. Truly amazing kind of transcendental work here by this group. And so what's this album like as far as songs? There are some great longer songs that are real interesting and have very wild lyrics, like which starts off with a really interesting guitar, interesting effects on the guitar, wah wah, of course, which Tony uses constantly, and it sounds like maybe some phasing, of course, distortion. I don't know. It's very distorted and very wah wah'd, but not in a clean way. It's kind of dirtier, darker sounding. Then it gets into the main riff, and it's a pretty fast paced song. Has some pretty cool lyrics, and comparable track on there, a couple. After All in parentheses. After All is really cool lyrics. It's basically like about superstition and reincarnation and what you believe, and great melodies. Just an amazing chorus. Just some great stuff, Is it just me, or does somebody else believe this? I'm not alone and I'm not afraid. There's just one way to see, after all. This is the chorus lyrics from Dio. So another great, longer, kind of banging out track, which is the first song on the album, is Computer God. Also very cool lyrics, basically about technology taking over, dehumanizing us. As I understand it, Geezer Butler named the album Dehumanizer. Cover is a little cheesy in a way. It's kind of a painting of this weird robot with, emanating lightning, electricity, and even killed this young kid. And the inside of him, it turns out to be, mechanical as well. But it's pretty cool. you know, it sums it up, I guess. But yes, and so Computer God is a song that Dio wrote the lyrics for. They're right in line with that album cover and with the album title, Dehumanizer. So um, both Geezer Butler and Dio went on record with interviews stating about, you know, that they feel like this is a modern statement, you know, that Sabbath's up to date, and this is saying a lot about what's happening to the world, what's going to happen to the world, and it's maybe not such a great thing. So both of those guys are known for cautionary lyrics. So, you know, this is in that same vein. Time Machine is on here, which was on the Wayne's World 2 soundtrack. I prefer the version on the soundtrack to the album version. There's a great song called Letters from Earth, takeoff on the title of the Mark Twain book, Letters from the Earth. Great lyrics, great riff. There was a B-side also of a song, TV Crimes, which was the single. The B-side version of Letters from Earth, I think, is far better. It has a break in the middle with a different riff that's and lyrics that's really, really cool. That single, TV Crimes, there was a music video. It's a really fast, heavy one, and it's about televangelism. And, you know, so there's a couple other tracks that kind of get lost in the shuffle, like Buried Alive, Master Insanity, and gosh, what's that other one called? That's kind of a generic title, and it kind of grew on me over the years. I don't even know if I mentioned Too Late. Yeah. So a little more generic, but still good. You know, still solid work. So let's move on to number 9. And don't faint that this album is so low on my list. Number 9 is Paranoid from 1970. Of course, this can't not be in the top 10. It's way beyond Dehumanizer, though. This is, in some ways, their most important album just because that's what most people on planet Earth know Black Sabbath from, is that album and 3 songs, especially the single Paranoid and that song's Iron Man and War Pigs. And of course, some of the other songs on the album have a great following. Planet Caravan, it's kind of a more mellow psychedelic track. Hand of Doom is like a really heavy track with a lot of good dynamics and interesting percussion about heroin addiction. And Fairies Wear Boots, the final song, which has got inscrutable lyrics. That's another song that Ozzy, I think, at one point claimed to have written the lyrics to. And maybe he did. I don't know. There's not really much evidence either way. But they could conceivably been written by Ozzy. They're a bit more simple and whimsical than most of Geezer's lyrics, the Wizard notwithstanding. And then there's Electric Funeral, which is an incredible distortion and wah-wah riff. It's about nuclear war and just basically just bringing melting everything down to the atomic level with its heat and force. The main 3 tracks, I'm sure everyone's heard. There's no real need to go into them. I will say a couple of anecdotes. War Pigs, of course, being about Vietnam. War Pigs was originally a song called Walpurgis, and it was about Walpurgis, the holiday. And it had some. Geezer wrote the lyrics, but they were a little cornier. They were about witches and devils and black masses. And one misconception on some of the 1970 shows that have been recorded or filmed is that Ozzy messed up the lyrics to War Pigs. He didn't really mess up the lyrics to War Pigs. He's always been great at memorizing all the lyrics written by his various lyricists. He was using the Walpurgis lyrics instead of the War Pigs lyrics. So Geezer changed the lyrics to War Pigs. It became a classic anti-war song. Vietnam was kind of at the height of its devastation at this time. They were going to call the album War Pigs, but the last minute they banged out this 3 or 4 minute long single, Paranoid, which is, basically, I read it as someone who's, well, maybe paranoid, but someone who basically is depressed, doesn't fit in, has no hope, might be suicidal. No one understands him. It's really a classic alienation track. Great lyrics by Geezer, great vocals by Ozzy, and a really wild guitar solo. It's got this really buzzing sound that'll come up in your speakers, and it's really wild. So, I'm probably forgetting a song, but I think I got them all. Uh, can't overestimate Paranoid. Um, so let's move on because everybody talks about Paranoid. So let's go to Volume 4. That's my 8th favorite. To me, this is a bridge between the sludgy, doomy vibe of Master of Reality and the kind of prog rock tendencies that started to manifest in Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. It's really got a lot of both. It's got longer songs, more complicated structures, more parts, but it's still very doomy. Still has some very slow, ominous riffs. It's really an incredible album. Tomorrow's Dream. Wow. That's the first track. There's some incredible stuff on here. Changes is the ballad on the album, which is Ozzy singing, and the piano is pretty sure the piano is by Rick Wakeman. He was working with them on keyboards at this period. I think he was also in Yes at this period. But yeah, he's on the 4th album as their keyboards. It's really the first album where they use keyboards. So some people will say Ozzy played the piano, some people say Tony played the piano, but I'm pretty sure it's Rick Wakeman. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. I said Tomorrow's Dream is the first song, but it's actually Wheels of Confusion. Tomorrow's Dream is great too. Wheels of Confusion, really incredible, kind of moaning, desperate guitar lead, and very morose. Just an incredible song. Now this here says, well, my original article says Tony is on piano and Mellotron. So I guess I read that somewhere, but I'm of the mind maybe Tony was only on the Mellotron and Wakeman was on the piano. So there's a place where maybe I contradicted myself, but I heard 2 different accounts, both of which seem very solid and believable. So you decide who plays piano and changes. But anyway, Supernaut, great song. I Want to Reach Out and Touch the Sky. Chuggy, heavy song, which they played live on and off over the years. For a while, Frank Zappa said it was his favorite Black Sabbath song. It was a great break near the end of percussion where Bill is just going off. Snowblind, which is a very well-known song of this album, possibly besides Change is the most well-known. Apparently a pro-cocaine song. They were getting into that. They credited on the album, they thanked the Coca-Cola Company of California, helping them get through the album. They didn't mean coca, like the drink. They meant the Coke. Yeah, the Coke. They were on the Coke on this one. Cornucopia is a very doomy track. The last 2 songs are very cool. Sunrise is a very nice acoustic guitar-dominated song. Very cool, very nice textures. And it goes into St. Vitus Dance, which goes kind of between crunchy chords and kind of country-like twang. And is like a breakup song. Not a traditional love song, but Sabbath was never known for that. But its lyrics are very, I don't know how to put it. They're very kind of compassionate and morose. It's basically a guy talking to his friend about his breakup and saying, this woman really, really loves you, man. So I think I might have forgotten a song. I did forget a song. Yes. The end track, the actual end track after St. Vitus's dance. And the band named St. Vitus named themselves after that song. Under the Sun. After St. Vitus's dance, Under the Sun is my favorite song. He's kind of throwing away all kinds of belief systems on this one with Geezer's lyrics. Some of these lyrics I quoted in my article. I don't believe in violence. Don't even believe in peace. I've opened the door. Now my mind's been released. Yeah, it's kind of rejecting all kinds of things, dogma, whether it's, satanic, evil, peace, violence, war, anti-war, religion, Christianity, whatever kind of spirituality. I don't know, I'd say it's nihilistic, but I guess it's self-determination, maybe humanistic, and thus closes Volume 4. So my seventh favorite Black Sabbath record is Technical Ecstasy from 1976. Same original lineup, but also Jez Woodruff plays keyboards. He also did the tour for this album and the tour before it, the Sabotage tour. I love Technical Ecstasy. It's more straightforward rock, I guess, than any of the albums prior to them. But it's incredibly heavy, and really, it's very inspired work by Tony. All the solos are among his best lead work. Just incredible, from like wailing, passionate, emotional to like just scathing, shredding. Ozzy's vocals for the first time take kind of a dip in quality. He was losing interest in the group, as I kind of noted in some of my other entries I talked about. Jez Woodruff's keyboards are great. He does a lot of piano on this album, and it works really well. There was talk of making him an official fifth member, but it just never kind of came to fruition. He's on Facebook, by the way. You should try to friend him. I tried. I'm waiting for him to approve me. Cool guy. He mainly was known for doing working with Robert Plant in his '80s solo career after Sabbath. Some 10-up tracks on this. You Won't Change Me is my favorite. A longer song, several parts, and great lyrics, really about individuality and, you won't change me, I am who I am, right? And Ozzy delivers it really well, and the solo is just unbelievable. Nobody will change the way I feel. Nobody's going to change my world. It's something too unreal. Nobody's going to change the way I feel. I love it. This album is really kind of is a rock and roll album, because really most of the songs are kind of about rebellion, self-affirmation, these kind of attitudes that were later kind of codified into punk rock, which Sabbath obviously had an influence on. All Moving Parts Stand Still is a cool song. It's got a funky bass line from Geezer, and it's about a corrupt politician who's kind of a pervert. Gypsy is kind of, a mystical, magical song about a gypsy, a woman who puts a spell on some dude. But the guitar work's incredible. A really memorable song. The only song on this album that's really survived over the years in live sets is Dirty Women. And, it seems to have kind of prosaic lyrics about, our protagonist cruising the streets for prostitutes. So, but I don't know, it has these ups and downs and build-ups with the music, and the piano kind of surges in with it. And once again, you have just amazing lead guitar, and then there's incredible heavy chunky riff. There's a jazzy kind of dun 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 dun, kind of almost bebop kind of part. The heavy riff comes in. It's really one of the heaviest on this album. It's very memorable, and they did start playing it again when they reunited with Ozzy later on and kept it on their their set list. Um, and finally, let's talk about "It's All Right." Ozzy did not want to sing this song, so Bill Ward was recruited to sing this song, and he does a beautiful job. It's kind of a Beatles-esque sounding song. It's mostly mellow, but then Tony does a real heavy, distorted solo. And there's some overdubs here with the acoustic guitar. And as the song is playing, reprising the chorus and playing toward the fade out, you have this kind of, it should have been higher in the mix, but it's just barely at the mix level where you can kind of make it out, but you can't quite enjoy it as much as you should have. Acoustic guitar, almost flamenco-like. Tony, he's just going off, and I wish there were more recordings of him doing this kind of stuff. So yeah, Tony really shines. The band's tight. It's more rock, but that's just powerful. It's a favorite. So let's go to album number 6, Seventh Star. Yes, it's that high for me. For me personally. Came out in 1986. Got Tony, of course, Jeff Nichols on keys, the great Glenn Hughes on vocals. Rhythm section was Dave Spitz on bass, Dave the Beast Spitz, and Eric Singer on drums. And a guest bassist on one song is Gordon Copley. Gordon Copley and Eric Singer were the rhythm section for Lita Ford's band prior to this, and Lita Ford and Tony Iommi were engaged to be married for a time, but it did not manifest. This one just barely beat out Technical Ecstasy. I'm a big apologist for this album, for not only being a great album, but also a Sabbath album and also a great Sabbath album. This was the 1980s, the mid-80s. Everybody was doing power ballads and more melodic metal and high soaring vocals. And, this is kind of, it had big hair, and this is all kind of in this album, but it's Tony Iommi and Glenn Hughes from the 70s, the 60s and 70s doing this stuff and doing their own take on it, and it works. Sabbath mastered every style of metal, and this is a good example. A lot of the songs are written. The music was written originally for when Dave Donato was in the band briefly. And this turned into a Tony solo album. I went over all this before in prior video to this. So I want to talk about the circumstances of the album. Let's just talk about the album. Several of the songs are kind of straight ahead, heavy rock. But there are some interesting slight departures. There's a track called Sphinx, the Guardian, which is a keyboard dominated by Jeff Nichols track. Jeff Nichols is more prominent on this album than any Sabbath album prior to it. So more synthesizers, more keyboards. Sphinx goes into the title track, Seventh Star, which has these really wild, mystical lyrics. The lyrics were worked and reworked on this album, and as I understand it, most of the finished lyrics were written by Jeff Nichols with Glenn Hughes. Jeff Glicksman, one of the producers, I think, took credit for writing some of the lyrics, but I don't know if that's actually factual or not. Another one of those rumor things. Seven Star is a really cool song. Kind of the standout track, and it was like the single. And it's my favorite song off here, predictably or not predictably. The power ballad, No Stranger to Love. There was a video with Denise Crosby from prior to her being in Star Trek. Very 80s. Tony was kind of cast as the main character in the video, and Glenn's kind of just off there singing to the side. Great song. I love it. I can't get enough of it. The single version is slightly shorter and has like the kind of soaring choruses. Glenn backing himself up. This guy's got an enormous range. He's great with high vocals, and he's really obviously always been very funk inflected, soul inflected in his vocal delivery. The last two tracks of this album are interesting. One's called Angry Heart. Prior to that, there's a kind of bluesy shuffle track with a long jam called Heart Like a Wheel. That's pretty cool. But Angry Heart is heavy, and the lyrics are kind of misanthropic, and yeah, it's pretty powerful, and it segues into the last song, In Memory, which has some piano playing on it, and mournful. Not many lyrics. It has a long kind of fade out though, where he kind of repeats some of the lyrics, but where he says it's still haunting me. There's a silence where he used to be, an empty space and mystery. Pretty sad. You were the one friend I had and gave me so much love. Now the tears remind me you're gone. So yeah, pretty straightforward, but heartfelt. Great Glenn vocals. Nice way to end the album. Trailing off into depressing state. So the top five. This video is going at a pretty nice clip here. I'm up to 30 minutes. The other videos are longer. Maybe I can encapsulate five albums in another 10 to 20 minutes. We'll see. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is number 5 from 1973. It's the original lineup with Rick Wakeman on keyboards. This was really their first kind of in vein, kind of progressive album. Now, mind you, the top 5 are like my godlike Sabbath selections. I mean, I like them way better than Seventh Star or any of the other albums behind them. These are the 5 that I constantly return to without fail. So, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. The album cover scared me when I was a kid. It's got some kind of demon possession theme, and then in the end, the guy apparently is dying and his soul is being taken by God. There's some really interesting and inscrutable lyrics on this album. Some of Geezer's greatest lyrics. My favorite songs, National Acrobat. Some of these song titles are inscrutable too. I mean, those words never appear in the song, and I'm not sure how they relate to the song. But it's an incredible track. I don't know how to describe it. It has some great harmony guitars and some just like I said, really off the wall kind of mystical, cosmic kind of lyrics. I guess birth, death, and rebirth, mysticism. I quoted in my lyrics, when little worlds collide, I'm trapped inside my embryonic cell, and flashing memories are cast into the never-ending well. It's incredible. Lots of layers of guitars. Yeah, I don't know, it's incredible. The National Acrobat is my favorite song off this album. There's an mostly acoustic piece with Tony on it, and a little bit of keyboards. I guess courtesy of Wakeman, called Fluff. The first song on the album is the title track, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. It's probably the most well-known song on this album. Great riff, and again, incredible lyrics about alienation and anger. When Ozzy screams, "You bastards!" I mean, it's really one of those things where I feel like it's the recurring themes of Sabbath is like outside of society. They're saying fuck you to authority, fuck you to organized religion, fuck you to all these dogmatic belief systems, and it's powerful. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that encapsulates this band thematically for me, lyrically, and the music, the heavy and doom laden music, melancholy. It kind of underscores and complements that perfectly. So there's some other cool songs on here. Who Are You and Killing Yourself to Live both have a lot of keyboards. Who Are You has a lot of synth on it, and some more really strange, inscrutable lyrics on Who Are You. But Killing Yourself to Live is kind of more about, self-destruction, resisting self-destruction, embracing self-determination. Just one incredible song after another. The final song is Spiral Architect, which is a lengthy song with various parts and some incredible melodies, and these kind of science fiction, sort of science fiction fantasy uh, type lyrics that I don't know. It's an absolute classic. It's my second favorite on the album. Um, the lyrics I think are kind of like about a spiral architect. What is a spiral architect? It's a man. There's an architect. He's building these spiral cities. He could be a god building the spiral cities. It's existentialist and it's kind of utopian. Um, you know, uh, I see this world uh, and I know that it is good. It's like God at creation. So anyway, this is a gloriously produced album. It's very progressive. It's taking the whole songwriting to another level. These guys came out of nowhere, out of total poverty, mostly self-taught, not heavily educated, and within a few years, a handful of years, still in their early 20s, they're crafting wholly original rock music like this. That I don't know, it boggles my mind. The stars were right with Sabbath. My number 4 favorite Sabbath album is Sabotage. This is the original lineup. And if there's keyboards on here, I think it's Gerald Woodruff. I know he played on the tour, but maybe not. Sabotage is my favorite Ozzy Osbourne fronted Sabbath album. I also think it's his pinnacle as a vocalist. He's dead on every track, very passionate. I don't know. I mean, the lyrics are incredible, tons of riffs. Songs go through multiple parts, multiple moods. Thrill of It All is a great one. Megalomania is a great one. Symptom of the Universe is probably the most well-known song with a really chuggy thrash thrash riff, which is really kind of one of the early thrash riffs. Then it has this really nice kind of cool down vibe, acoustic with really kind of romantic lyrics at the end. Outstanding vocals. I love the last parts. Woman, child of love's creation, come and step inside my dreams. In your eyes, I see no sadness. You are all that loving means. Kind of mulling over kind of the moods of the album. I mentioned the thrill of it all. Again, really philosophical, and Ozzy's really bringing forward these geezer's lyrics. Won't you help me, Mr. Jesus? Won't you tell me if you can, when you see this world we live in, do you still believe in man? We have Superstar, which is kind of my least favorite. The next 2 songs are my least favorites, but they were kind of ubiquitous back in the day. Superstar is kind of this weird instrumental with a lot of chanting and a monotonous riff, and they used to play it at the beginning of concerts for many, many years. Not the band didn't actually play it live; it was played over the speakers, kind of later the way they did E5150 for Mob Rules. And there's Am I Going Insane Radio, which I don't know if they assumed that was a radio song. A little more melodic and catchy. Not bad, but good, memorable. The last song is very long. It's called The Writ, and I think it's the masterpiece of Sabbath with Ozzy. Here's where there's another thing of conflicting accounts. A lot of people claim that Ozzy wrote these lyrics. More people claim that Geezer Butler wrote the lyrics. What is agreed on is that the lyrics were expressing the band's sentiments about being kind of used and manipulated by their management, basically by everybody, getting ripped off financially, disrespected. Probably the drugs didn't help their mood in this difficult time they were going through. And it's like total rebellion, but it's like, again, it's total individuality. The guy asserting this is whoever the narrator is, asserting this is who I am, don't fuck with me, this is my world. And it's really a total repudiation of betrayal. And I think, even though it is specifically inspired by their financial and career woes, that it really can apply to a lot of different feelings. And it has a bunch of parts, and it finally comes into this part where there's like a harp. It might be a guitar, but it sounds like a harp playing with guitars, mostly acoustic, and it's beatific and heavenly and beautiful. And Ozzy is he's just pouring out his soul here. And he says nobody can understand him, which is a common theme in these lyrics throughout Sabbath, of alienation. Too many people advising me, but they don't know what my eyes see. And how to describe the riff, man? It has several different parts that kind of ascend and descend. And in the end, it just kind of keeps pounding this last thing, everything is going to turn out fine. If it don't, I think I'll lose my mind. And then there's a little hidden track. It's really quiet, called Blowing a Jug, that Bill Ward sings, and Ozzy plays piano on this kind of little, almost chopsticks-like piano thing. It's just a goof, like a joke. But what an album. It's an epic album. A lot of people claim it's their favorite Sabbath album, and I can easily see that. It is my favorite Ozzy Osbourne fronted Sabbath album. My favorite of the original lineup of the 8 albums they did. So let's get to number 3, because time's a wasting. My number 3 album, and some people will probably wonder why this isn't my number 1 album. My number 3 album is Heaven and Hell, from 1980. And here we begin the era of Dio. So we've still got Tony, Geezer, and Bill as the instrumental lineup. Jeff Nichols on keyboards. This is his first album with the band. The first album with Ronnie James Dio from Rainbow on lead vocals. This album means a lot to me. It got me through some hard times when I was like 16, 17 years old. Especially the first 2 tracks, which are really about loss of different kinds. They can be interpreted different ways, and Dio apparently intended, especially the second track, to mean something that it was not mean something that it was not interpreted as. The first track is Neon Nights, and it opens with these lyrics: "Oh no, here it comes again. I can't remember when we came so close to love before. Hold on, good things never last. Nothing's in the past. It always seems to come again." Man. And then this is kind of a fast, heavy thing that Geezer helped write, but it's the only track that Geezer had anything to do with the writing on. He came in late to the recording, rejoined the band. Jeff Nichols had written just about all the bass lines when he was on bass before he switched to keyboards. Second track on the album is my favorite track on the album. It's my favorite Black Sabbath song. It's probably my favorite song. It's a song that I've played over and over and over and over throughout my life, almost 35 years of this, and it's always cathartic. It's called Children of the Sea. It was the same thing. It was the first song, that Tony and Ronnie wrote together, and it's an alchemical creation, man. It's like I mentioned this on my earlier video chapter of this. It is. It's like these two beings, this energy between this stoic Aquarian instrumentalist and this strange Cancerian moonchild lyricist. And I don't know, man, it's emotional. And I think they feel the same way. The way Dio always introduces this song throughout the years live, the way they both talk about this song in interviews, about how this lineup got together. Supposedly this song was about ecology and the end of the world coming. And we had everything, we had the world and we squandered it. It's fucked. Sun is going black. The lyrics are a little more literal in Dio's intention, but I've always interpreted personally and applied it to me as being about profound loss of anything. Uh, we sailed above the air before we learned to fly. We thought that it could never end. Or is it we'd glide? Yeah. We sailed across the air before we learned to fly. We thought that it could never end. We'd glide above the ground before we learned to run. Now it seems our world has come undone. These are incredible lyrics, man, by any metric. Um, Most of the songs are well, there's really no gentle song in the album. They're all heavy, they're all riff laden, but great. I mean, the band is super tight. This is the tightest they've played together, I think, since the instrumental band, since Paranoid. Um, I think maybe it contributes to why, in some ways, Heaven and Hell is one of their very best selling albums. It used to be paired with Paranoid at 2-on-1 cassettes. Remember those cassettes we used to listen to? They were shitty quality, but man. This is kind of the rebirth of Sabbath, and all these songs are just buoyant, full of energy. Lady Evil, um, Wishing Well, oh my God, Walk Away. Walk Away is a really cool kind of romantic song, but skewed, kind of the way Dio does. Lord, She's Handsome as she flows across the floor. Nothing I've seen in my life has ever pleased me more. God. So he refused to write the love songs for Rainbow, but he comes up with this immediately after Sabbath, but it's his own thing. You know, it's not like he's being forced into doing something commercial like Richie Blackmore wanted him to do. There's some other standout, tracks on here. The title track, Heaven and Hell, probably the most well-known song on the album. It's kind of a long, epic track with various moods. Famous kind of loping bass line that was written by Jeff Nichols, played on the album by Geezer. Very cool lyrics, the hypocrisy of religion. This kind of says it all. Always great to hear live. Well covered live by Ian Gillan when he was in the band, by the way. Bill Ward was unhappy, but man, he's really locked on tight. He's not doing a lot of fills on this album or adventure stuff, but it's just he's like a metronome, but man, he's like right, bam, like a machine with the other two guys. Yeah, as far as the songs go, the other songs, I'm kind of thumbing through my old article. I wrote a lot on this. It was a very, very long piece on this. Lady Evil, I guess, yeah, is probably my least favorite, but it's still pretty cool. Lyrics are more like something Ronnie would have written for Elf, kind of about some evil woman, some husky woman with black eyes, with rainbows inside them. The last song, Lonely is the Word. A long song, a very mournful song, very heavy song. It's weird. Again, inscrutable lyrics. I don't know how to describe them exactly. But the bottom line is this. I think the character in the song is maybe in outer space by himself. I don't know. He's talking about seeing on the moon and counting things he sees on the moon. I don't know, but Lonely is the Word. Got to be the saddest sound I've ever heard. And the solo is one of Tony's best. It's a progression that he later goes on to use in a couple of different songs. Feels Good to Me and I can't remember. He plays octaves. I can't remember the other song. I mentioned it on the other video. Nichols does a lot of keyboards on this track. There's some jazzy stuff in here. It's really that all-encompassing mood, and I'm glad they restored when they got back together in the 2000s as Heaven and Hell, when they restored this to their live set permanently. So they didn't do it much in the days of Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. Which brings us to Mob Rules, my number 2 favorite Black Sabbath album, 1981. And different lineup by one person. Vinny Appice, this is his debut as drummer. First time Sabbath has a drummer other than Bill Ward. Vinny proved to be their most kind of enduring and popular drummer besides Bill Ward. One of the first Sabbath songs I ever heard, one of the very first songs I ever heard was Voodoo when it first came out on the radio, very late at night. And I thought it was the most evil song I'd ever heard. Heavy riff, man. And I still love it. The animated movie Heavy Metal was coming out at this time, and Black Sabbath did a song to tie it into it lyrically called Mob Rules, which is the title track of the album, and an instrumental before it, which is very kind of evil and doomy, which kind of mainly features Geezer with a lot of bass with effects and Jeff Nichols keyboards, and a little Tony doomy, gloomy kind of riff, and that segues into Mob Rules. Another great riff and a barnstorming track. And the lyrics are suited to the scene it's used in heavy metal. Close the city and tell the people that something is coming to call. Death and darkness are rushing forward to take a bite of the world. It's really great stuff. That's kind of a perennially popular song. I kind of feel this album, the sound is really overwhelming and dense and powerful and monolithic, majestic. Turn Up the Night's the first song, and that one's kind of like a party song lyrics. Not really, but I mean, it's it is what it is. I could see it being on a Dio solo album just as easily as on a Sabbath album. Voodoo, like I said, is just really evil. Call me the devil, it's true. Some can't accept, but I crept inside you. It's pretty diabolical. Silent Southern Cross is a long song with various parts. It has a lot of acoustic guitar, a little more dynamics on this album. Actually, quite a bit more dynamics on this album. Because really, Children of the Sea and Heaven and Hell are the only ones on the previous album to really do that. Soft and then heavy and back and forth. And this album does it on several tracks. Silent Southern Cross just keeps building intensity and has really a grandiose climax. Side 2, Country Girl, another incredible riff, another incredible song, another great lyric, another one about an evil woman. Dio's had some bad luck with women, I think, but us cancers, we're sensitive. This stuff really affects us. Great lyric from that song is Her Smile Was a Winter Song, a Sabbath ending. Great. So, we get into the final 2 tracks on this album and just another whole level. Falling Off the Edge of the World starts with some keyboards and some guitar, and this is very mellow, very mournful. Has kind of like mystical, magical kind of lyrics, some kind of Arthurian references here. And it has, when it gets, then it kind of slows down into this kind of, everything's kind of, entropy is setting in. And then there's like a heartbeat of the bass drums, and then it comes into this clanging, incredible heavy riff. Really one of the best riffs. Slow, and then a super fast riff, one of Tony's best super fast riffs, and then just goes from there. I don't know. Another epic song. I put it side by side with Lonely Is the Word. I like it a little better. Last song is called Over and Over, and it is kind of a really depressing downbeat song. Great melody, great sound, great guitar sound. Tony's solo at the end it's unbelievable, really. He just keeps pushing and pushing until it's starting to fade out, and he's like going off the fretboard, and it sounds like he's making a few mistakes, but it doesn't matter because it's just he's making that guitar scream, really scream. And then of course Dio has these lyrics like, too many flames with too much to burn, and life is only made of paper. And that was the end of that era for Sabbath. This album really distilled everything great about Black Sabbath, their entire career in a way, into one document, for me personally. Almost. Everything great about the Dio era, for sure. The next album eclipsed it. Next album chronologically, and the next album on our countdown, the last one, my number one favorite Black Sabbath album of all time, and this will probably shock many, but you probably figured it out by now if you know their albums. The Process of Elimination is Born Again from 1983. The original instrumental lineup, Geezer, Butler, Ward, reunited with Nichols on keyboards, and the first and only album with Ian Gillan, previously and later again of Deep Purple, on lead vocals. From what I've been able to discern over the years, Ian Gillan wrote the lion's share of the lyrics on this album, but I do believe Geezer Butler contributed a good bit here and there. And as I said in my original article, if Forbidden is the nadir of Sabbath's output, then Born Again is surely the zenith. And this has kind of got the experimentation of the Ozzy years with the kind of really straightforward melodic power of the Dio years. And Ian Gillan's just kind of just this unbridled ferocity of his vocals. I mean, stuff that you saw glimpses of all through Deep Purple, especially like Child in Time, where he's just hitting superhuman notes. He takes it even further here. This is a screamer's album. I mean, this is like the album that everyone warned you about when they said Black Sabbath was evil. Stay away from Black Sabbath. This is it. It's like they went, we're going to live up to this reputation. And they have a demon baby on the cover, a much ridiculed cover, but I like it. Ian Gillan himself thought it was silly, but, I think it's pretty effective. And it was pretty creepy to me when it came out. I was still pretty young, but song titles are a bit different. Gillan has kind of this dark, very British, very dark, kind of cynical, kind of, I don't know, he's almost like some kind of evil troubadour or this kind of ne'er-do-well kind of character, and expresses it in odd ways. Trashed opens the album again. The song titles are more straightforward. When this album first came out, I was kind of turned off by the song titles. They didn't have the poetry, to me, that the Dio and Geezer compositions titles of their compositions did. But I get it now. So Trashed is about alcohol abuse and a guy who's going to go out and race, and he crashes and almost dies, but Mr. Miracle, I guess it's supposed to be God, not the DC Comics character only, saves him miraculously, of course. Just a unstoppable track. The band isn't as tight with Bill Ward as they were on Heaven and Hell, but Bill Ward's still got a lot of great flourishes. He's still pounding the hell out of it. His style kind of changes a lot over the years, up and down. This was the last studio album he did with Black Sabbath ever. He did leave and rejoin several more times after this. But yeah, the way the album starts with the crashing chords, and then Ian Gillan's just wailing screams, and then Tony Iommi, I think, using a whammy bar for maybe one of the first times on a Sabbath album. Tremolo abuse is all over this album. Music video is kind of ridiculous. So then we get into kind of some ambient stuff. Stonehenge, which has this kind of pulse to it. A lot of stuff like E5150 with the distorted bass and the keyboards. Moody, and it goes into, kind of erupts into Disturbing the Priest. Some really over-the-top vocals. Some incredible lyrics. I quoted a few of these in my article. An amazing bridge. It has this kind of pulsing bass, and good life is contradiction. because of crucifixion. If you're ready and have the need, I will take your soul and plant my seed. The devil and the priest can't exist if one goes away. It's just like the battle of the sun and the moon and the night and the day. Oh my God. I think it's with the force of the priest. Oh man, see, I can't get him right, but there's some other great ones along those lines where he's like, yeah, something like, the power of evil will destroy him, but not disgrace. To get into your mind, to your soul, you have to set alight the flames of doubt so deep inside. Oh my gosh. Look out for religion when he gets too near. This is getting back to the Sabbath idea of more sacrilegious, profane lyrics, which they really rarely did in their career. They really rarely dealt with heaven and hell and devils and angels and God. A few times with Ozzy here on and off, and then a couple of times with Dio, and then Ian Gillan throws this disturbing the priest stuff at you, and you're like, good Lord. He's just summing it all up, man. He's making the commentary. And this is the early 80s. Born again Christianity was everywhere. It was permeating America with the religious right and Reaganism. My mom got born again. She lost her freaking mind. The facetious title of this album alluding to that, and also the fact the band is reborn with Ian Gillan. Perfect. Everything is perfect. Oh, here it is. The force of the devil is what we're all told to fear. Watch out for religion when he gets to you. Exceptional track. The Dark is another instrumental that's very eerie kind of soundscape. And then we get into Zero the Hero, another crazy one. Lots of surging sounds. This album has tons of weird ambient kind of sounds. Some of it's Tony's flute, some of it's these overdubs, some of it's backwards guitar passages, weird synthesizer sounds, Bill doing some weird kind of tribal drumming. I don't know, man. This album's a masterpiece. So anyway, Zero the Hero is great. There was another cheesy video done for this song. The basic riff was allegedly taken by Guns N' Roses for Paradise City, but I don't know, which isn't surprising because, there were Sabbath fans. They covered It's All Right at a lot of shows. Side 2, we get into another weird, kind of crudely titled song, Digital Bitch. Another pile driver, more tremolos, more screaming, more tongue-in-cheek lyrics, and Gillan's dirty mind about some, rich, bitch who just, it's just getting on his nerves. She thinks she's all that. This is kind of his typical satirical jabs. He did it with Deep Purple with stuff like Mary Long and Ted the Mechanic. Just this kind of wry, knowing, kind of sinister, laughing at everything kind of deal. Then we come to the title track. So Born Again, the title track, is my second favorite Sabbath song ever after Children of the Sea. The guitar sound when it opens, it's kind of slow, sullen, chugging chords with a lot of flange and chorus and just mild distortion. Different sound. When I first heard it, it's like, dong. It's very expansive. It kind of, each chord, it has a lot of decay that kind of stretches out. And Gillan is doing these kind of more gentle vocals, but very, again, a level of lyricism that's incredible. If you look through my window deep into my room, the tapestries all faded, their vague and distant glories concealed in the gloom. Icy fingers of forgotten passion, softly brushing my lips at the tips of my primitive soul. I don't know, man. And then it gets into the heavy stuff, and he's like born again, and he screams born again, and then he screams this run that just keeps getting higher and higher and higher. He couldn't duplicate this live either. He had to interrupt it in the middle and yelp some more. He couldn't go all the way up the register the way he does on the album. So it's probably took a lot of rehearsal. I've tried to sing this song. It's pretty rough. It's pretty hard. It's harder than Child in Time, which is hard. Um, it's an intense song, and then it kind of fades out to this long kind of instrumental passage with a cool solo, and Bill doing this kind of almost sounds like he's playing bongos, but maybe not. But it has that kind of, funky tribal kind of rhythmic, hypnotic kind of beat. So the last two tracks are more straight ahead, heavy metal, heavy rock songs, thrashing. Hotline is, Ian Gillan's got a superhuman larynx. He's completely over the deep end by the end of the song, where he's, going from straight singing to total shrieking, high shrieks within one sentence. So he's going like, "Take me to the river, take my wine," it's crazy. I like it. You gotta kind of maybe shared a minute off the end of it because the chorus kind of repeats a little too much. The last song is well, I'm sorry. I actually, that complaint I was reading in my notes was not about Hotline, but about the last song. But this is true. Yeah, the last song kind of goes on and on and gets a bit monotonous to the fade out, but that's okay. It's a great song. It's called Keep It Warm, and it's basically lyrics about Ian Gillan being on the tour all the time, missing his wife. He's telling her to keep it warm. I guess it meaning, well, great song. I mean, I don't know, and a love song, pretty much. Sweet woman, are you feeling fine? What was it that you did last night? You made me crazy. You made me blind. Can't forget that hungry look in your eye. Oh, what's the matter with me? I'm just a runner. I was born free. Since I met you, I can't leave you alone. Leaving now, but I'll be coming home. So keep it warm. Crazy, man. And then part of the chorus is keep it warm, Rat. And I don't know if Rat is his nickname for his wife. I don't know, man. It's crazy. The lyrics are in this. Were in the LP, and they were all handwritten with the same kind of font, all of them, and they're great. It's great reading them, and I don't know who wrote them out, but it looks so personal and spontaneous. It's great graphics. This spawned an excellent tour. Ian Gillan handled these songs great, though his voice, was taken to the absolute limit. He handled the Ozzy songs great. He can do the kind of flatter, songs, and then he can do the kind of soaring stuff. And he did some Dio. He did Heaven and Hell and Neon Nights, and he acquitted himself well on them. He rearranged some of the, like on Neon Night, like on Heaven and Hell, he adds some wailing screams in the chorus that weren't in the original. He can't stop screaming all through this album and all through the tour. So I heard he maybe needed a throat operation after this. That's something that I'm still not sure if that's 100% true, but that's been the dominant rumor all these years. So thank you. It's been well over an hour. I've covered a lot of ground, and I really appreciate you sticking in here and listening to me cover all this ground. This was 10 incredible albums by my favorite band ever, and I am now going to bow out. This will be my final word on Black Sabbath on video for maybe ever, but at least indefinitely. Thank you. Thank you.